Hello there, I'm Bonnibert, and this is my full-length spoiler review for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And this movie was absolutely amazing. I'll get into why in a little bit, but I made a short, non-spoiler review yesterday, so if you don't want any spoilers, go check that out. But if you want to know my full thoughts on this movie, just stick around in this review, and if you don't care about spoilers, of course. That's all for the intro. Let's just get right into this review. Now, in case you guys didn't know, I'm a really big fan of the first two Guardians of the Galaxy movies. The first one is even my favorite MCU movie of all time. So I had a lot of expectations going into this one, and I was a little nervous, because the MCU has had a pretty bad track record recently. I really didn't want this movie to be bad. But once I saw the scores on Rotten Tomatoes and other places, I was suddenly not that scared. After seeing these, I got really excited. Let me tell you, this movie exceeded my expectations. First of all, the visual effects were pretty good in this movie. I mean, compared to other recent Marvel projects, they were really good. You could tell they put a lot of work into this movie, so let's just take a second to appreciate the VFX team over at Marvel Studios. Now, the VFX was the best when they were at OrgoCorp. It didn't really look fake. And they were also the best during the action scenes, and basically the entire movie. James Gunn did a really great job of mixing comedy with a serious tone. I mean, the previous Guardians movies had some serious moments, but this movie had a lot of serious moments. So I'm glad there was still some comedy in there. I'm just going to throw this in here real quick. The F-bomb wasn't really necessary in this movie. Did it make for a very funny moment? Yes, it did. But I feel like they should have let Deadpool say the first F-bomb in the MCU, but that's fine, I guess. Speaking of serious moments, Rocket's backstory may be one of the saddest things in the entire MCU. From him being tortured to him losing his friends, it was just really sad. And it really made you want the High Evolutionary to lose. Rocket's backstory was definitely one of the best parts of this movie. Probably because it was one of the main parts. And I've been wondering where Rocket came from ever since, the first movie. So it was really cool to see his backstory. And yeah, I did cry during it, blah, blah, blah. Whatever, I cried 2 or 3 times throughout the movie. Yeah, this is definitely one of the most emotional MCU movies. And because it's the last Guardians movie, it was really cool to see every Guardian get a chance to shine. Even though everyone got a chance to shine, I do think Rocket was the best part of this movie. Seeing him confront his past with the High Evolutionary and fighting him at the end, and finding out that he actually was a raccoon, that was just pretty awesome. And when he said, the name's Rocket Raccoon, that was pretty cool, I gotta admit. But yeah, this movie shows us how much everyone has grown since the first movie, or the second movie, and that's one of the good parts about this movie. It's a really good send-off for these characters, even though some of them are probably going to come back. The action was crazy in this movie. In my opinion, it was actually some of the best in the MCU. It was probably because of that one hallway fight scene, and just the final climax in general. That had some of the best action in the last 2 phases of the MCU. Especially this scene that's playing right here. I want to say this is one of the best climaxes in the entire MCU. It was a giant ship battle with Nowhere against the High Evolutionary ship. That was really cool. And the stakes were honestly pretty high because you didn't know who was going to die. I'm glad all these characters survived because I love them a lot. I mean, I could see one of the characters dying, but it doesn't really matter. Let's talk about the High Evolutionary for a minute. He's honestly in my top 10 MCU villains. After seeing what he did to these animals and seeing what he's doing to the universe, you really want him to lose. He's really intimidating and just really interesting. Probably one of the main parts on why this villain is so good is because the acting was really good. Sorry if I butcher this name, but Ncuti Iwuji did a really great job as this character. He honestly felt like a threat. Now, let's get into the 2 cons that I have, but they're not really that big of cons. I feel like Adam Warlock should have done a lot more. I mean, he was really used for comedy. But it does look like we're going to see him a lot more in the future, so I feel like he could do more. But I guess him being redeemed in the end was pretty cool, I guess. Now, the start of this movie was a little slow. We start with the scene of Rocket being picked out from the cage, and then it's just him walking through nowhere. Didn't really hook me from the start, but once Adam Warlock came in and Rocket was injured, that's when the movie got a lot better. I feel like I've reached all the points that I really wanted to talk about today. Oh yeah, I can't forget the soundtrack. The soundtrack was absolutely amazing in this movie, as always with Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and I love how they played Come and Get Your Love in that first post-credit scene. It really brings the trilogy full circle with that. Yeah, speaking of the post-credit scenes, couldn't really find a good picture for the first one, but it shows us the new lineup of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's pretty decent. And of course it has Come and Get Your Love, and a giant 20-foot Groot, which was pretty cool. But yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of this new lineup. I just hope they come back in the future. And the second post-credit scene was just Peter eating cereal. Nothing too awesome. But yeah, this movie was an excellent ending to an excellent trilogy. The ending kind of made me tear up when the Guardians kind of parted ways, but it was a great movie. This movie really grew up with its audience. It was really mature, which was something different for a change. A lot of the reviews say this is the best movie since Endgame, and I agree. Spider-Man No Way Home's a close second, but this one is the best. I'm gonna give this movie a big old 9.5 out of 10. Not quite perfect, but pretty close to perfect. This was my top 5 before, and this is my top 5 now. This is my 4th favorite Marvel movie, but I still like the first Guardians of the Galaxy more. Thank you all so much for watching if you stayed. If you aren't subscribed yet, make sure you do that. I try my best to post daily, and I'm so close to 500. If you have seen the movie, I want to know what you think. Tell me in the comments, and just tell me if you agree or disagree. I want to know what you guys think. That's all I got to say, so that's a cut.